Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Waste World Podcast. I am one of your weekly hosts, Gage Edwards, here today with another session from Waste Expo 2024. A huge hit every year at Waste Expo is the Rising Leaders Talk Trash panel. Attendees stuff the room to learn from these young professionals making a difference in the waste industry. And I should note, each of these rising leaders was chosen as a 40 Under 40 award winner from Waste Expo this year. So they have lots of knowledge and insight to share. So let's sit back, learn something, and enjoy listening to our Rising Leaders Talk Trash. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rising Leaders Talk Trash. My name is Gage Edwards. I'm a content producer at waste360.com, and I will be moderating today's session. I'd like to thank you, of course, and thank you for your support of Waste Expo and the NWRA. Your participation and feedback is sincerely appreciated. Before we begin today's session, I just have some talking points I want to go over with you. We welcome your participation in this session. If there's time, there should be time at the end for some Q&A. I do ask that if you have a question, save it for the end. Raise your hand when I let you know. And Tori is helping me pass around a microphone today. And we'll make sure everyone speaks loud and clear into the microphone so that we all hear today's question. We know business doesn't stop, but please remember to put your cell phones on vibrate during the session. Please and thank you. Don't forget to download the Waste Expo mobile app. At the end of today's session, you might look around, you'll see a QR code on some tables. You can scan that, and that will give you a quick survey, and you can put in your feedback on today's session. Let them know that I did a good job and what you think of Waste Expo. New this year for Waste Expo is using our cups to replace single-use cups for all of our conference coffee service. If you grabbed a cup for coffee or tea, please make sure you're returning the R cups in the appropriate bin. They are yellow, they're hard to miss. We're following CDC guidelines and mask wearing is optional. Please use your discretion per your comfort level and respect others' choices. Mark your calendar for Waste Expo 2025, May 5th through May 8th in Las Vegas. Please visit wasteexpo.com to learn more about next year's event. Again, Waste360 and the NWRA, thank you for your attendance and support. Now, let's get today's session started. As I said earlier, I am today's moderator. My name is Gage Edwards. And since I'm being introduced first, that means I'm the leader of the Rising Leaders. Important to note. So when you look back on this, remember, Gage Edwards. Today's speakers, we are joined by Megan Garducci. She's a senior manager and safety and environmental compliance Mid-Valley Disposal. Rebecca Hugh, founder, CEO, Glacier. Ian Patterson, senior vice president of Comerica Bank. Afton Giles, Principal Planner, Sustainability, Resilience, City of Pittsburgh, Department of City Planning. I told Afton before we started, I'm a fan of Baltimore sports, so I don't really appreciate having someone from Pittsburgh on the set. But we're here to talk trash. So let's calm it down. So what we're going to do first is go through some slides that each speaker has provided to me. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves to you, tell you about how they got here, well, what makes them a good leader in the industry, and some of their experience. Let's see who's first. Looks like it's Rebecca. Rebecca?
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca. I'm the founder and CEO of Glacier. And at a very high level, Glacier is building technology to help end waste. We started by building an AI-enabled, purpose-built sorting robot to help MRFs and other recyclers trace and recover their commodities at the highest level of efficiency possible. So behind the scenes at Glacier, we're about a 25-person company right now. I like to joke that we're a brain drain on Silicon Valley. So we're based in San Francisco, and I'm a former Bain consultant. My co-founder and CTO is a former Facebook AI engineer. What's really exciting is to see how many really talented, passionate people are leaving their really cushy jobs at really big tech companies to come and work on a problem that we all believe matters a lot more, which is figuring out how to get the most out of our recycling streams. So a couple of reasons why I decided to start Glacier. If you rewind, if you'll pause for a second, Gage.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay, you can click. Maybe two more. Perfect. So 3 reasons actually why I decided to go from Bain Consulting into the magical world of waste and recycling. So when I was considering what to do next with my career, you know, my background is in consumer packaged goods and industrial manufacturing, and all my advisors were like, you got to just pick one, you know, you're never going to find a way to make them both work. And I was like, you're wrong. And it turns out recycling is that weird intersection of consumer goods and industrial manufacturing. So when I was looking at the world around me in 2019, there were a lot of things happening within the industry, and I think that's what really spoke to me. You know, the first was, as many of you probably recall, China had just passed the national sword policy, and we were seeing a lot of the really big picture economics of recycling being turned on their head, and a lot of people trying to look for new and innovative ways to make the whole recycling process a lot more efficient and more profitable. The second thing is a lot of upcoming legislation. You know, in the past few years, EPR has started to become a really big trend across the industry, and again, you see these new opportunities to invest in innovation that wouldn't have been possible, you know, 10 or even 5 years ago. And then finally, of course, I think everyone in this room has probably heard a lot of the conversations around the big labor challenges that are plaguing the industry. You know, we started Glacier right before COVID, but even back then we were hearing stories of, you know, 500% annual turnover in MRFs and difficulty finding folks who were able to do that job. So if you click once more, Gage, that led to my magical journey into the world of MRFs. These are a few of my photos from the earliest years of Glacier, where I was knees deep in recycling at various MRFs across the country with my co-founder. We were tinkering heavily with the help of a lot of our closest MRF operator partners to get some of our earliest versions of our robot and our AI systems out there and sorting in the very unique environment that we know to be a MRF. So if you fast forward about 4.5 years, can you go back one, Gage? This is the results of the fruits of our labor. And what you're looking at is the Glacier robotic system. Now, some of you may be familiar with some automation that's currently present in MRFs. One really unique thing about the Glacier system is it's entirely purpose-built for MRF sortation. So instead of maybe going into a big catalog from a robotics manufacturer and ordering a unit to plop into a MRF, we've custom built every part of the system from scratch to endure the chaoticness of a MRF, the variability of all the items coming down in a MRF, and then also hit the cost targets and the uptime requirements that are needed in this very unique situation. So that thing on the right, this belt is moving from right to left. The thing on the right is the vision system, and it's able to see, you know, 24/7 what are all the items that are coming down the belt. That's a PET bottle, that's an aluminum can. And then this bigger blue box downstream is the robot, and you'll see a video in a moment, but it basically knows what to pick and where to sort it. And this robot is only about 3 feet wide, so the goal is to get it anywhere a sorter might stand and to install it in less than a day with no downtime. So if you click once more, Gage, hopefully the video plays. So this is just a quick video of our robot in action. I'm especially proud of this use case. It's on a fiber QC line at a MRF in the Bay Area, and it's pulling out things like, you know, film and flexible packaging, black plastics, other really hard to get items. You know, in the 5 years that Glacier's been around, we've now expanded to work with dozens of customers across 10 states, and we also have started working with other folks in the circular economy as well, like Amazon and Colgate-Palmolive, the City of Phoenix, the Michigan Department of Environment, because we really believe that in order to advance true circularity, it's, you know, not enough to just get MRFs working really, really well. You really need input and collaboration with people across the entire circular economy.
Cool. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks.
Now let's see who PowerPoint picked next. Megan.
So I'm Megan Garayuchi. I'm a certified safety professional. I have 18 years of experience in the environmental health and safety field. 9 years of that has been in the waste industry.
Test.
Okay. Want me to start again? Or did you guys hear all that? All right. So I'm Megan Garducci. I'm a certified safety professional. I have 18 years of experience in the environmental health and safety field. 9 years of that has been in the waste industry. I'm currently employed with Mid-Valley Disposal. I'm their senior manager of safety and environmental compliance. Mid-Valley Disposal is a medium-sized company. They have approximately 400 employees, and of that, 200 are CDL drivers. They service 5 counties and 35 contracts. So here's me and a couple of my teammates on our day-to-day. My role is to enhance and implement and evaluate our environmental health and safety program. I'm there on the bottom right, about 3 months pregnant. During COVID, right? Not only did we have to comply with the regulations, but we also had to take all the precautions into consideration, and we had to still run our safety program, right? So what I did or decided to do was basically film myself doing all the toolbox talks, all the safety messaging, and then worked with our marketing department to send out all the informational bulletins through a text blast platform that we have at Mid-Valley. All right, so just a little bit more about Mid-Valley. Mid-Valley Disposal revamped or overhauled their entire material recovery facility. I was instrumental in taking care of all of the policies and procedures for that and making sure that the construction went smoothly and safely for our employees. Shortly thereafter, Mid-Valley Disposal installed a 24 bunker composting facility, which again, I was instrumental in the permitting and the installation process there as well.
Thank you, Megan. I believe next is Ian.
Hi, everyone. I told my wife I was giving this presentation. She's like, you're going to put everybody to sleep talking about banking. So I'll try not to do that. So I'm a group manager for Comerica in the Environmental Services Department. What that means is that we have a specialty group that lends to environmental service companies. So if you collect, treat, transport, dispose, recycle of waste, you're sort of in our wheelhouse and what we bank day to day. What's unique about Comerica is it's a regional bank, about 80 billion of assets. Don't expect everybody to know what that means, but it's an okay size bank. But what we've built out is really these specialty groups, and 70% of our income comes from business loans, small business, middle market, large corporate loans. And we built the specialty around environmental services and been doing this for the last 20 years. I've been doing it for the last 10 years, and I lead a team of 5 other relationship managers, bankers that go out on a daily basis and only focus on waste and recycling companies. We find that unique because there's not a lot of banks that, one, get the industry, 2, there's a lot of capital intensity involved with your industry. And one of the rewarding things of my job is I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I just didn't have the guts to do it. So I'm using other people's money, our depositors' money, to help these customers now grow their companies and succeed and build out their families, eventually maybe monetize it. That's rewarding for me. Other than that, again, there's not really any spicy, sexy pictures you can put up about banking. So really what we focus on here is family-owned companies or private equity-based companies that are looking to build up their platforms. They're typically experienced operators, have established themselves. Usually 10 trucks or more is sort of our entry point that we find that you're bankable at that point. And then obviously having a favorable background, good track record, have not been cut any corners. We really bank on character and making sure that it's the right fit between both of us. One of the things that we add value from the perspective of banking is we do a lot of project financing, from whether it's buying new trucks for new contracts or organic growth, building a transfer station, expanding a landfill, some sort of recycling facility or MRF. We understand those projects and typically aren't looking at it from the standpoint of, hey, what's this thing going to appraise for and what's it worth? We're more looking at what's the value of the company when it's all completed and said and done. So definitely unique from the standpoint of a traditional banker. So part of being sort of call it industry experts is being involved in the industry. So we're involved with pretty much all the major associations, trying to live, breathe, and understand the industry day to day. It gives us good speaking points, right? When you're talking with a prospective client, we understand their business. You don't have to explain us, what's a front loader, what's a rear loader, what does MRF stand for? We get all that stuff, and obviously there's stuff much more complicated than that, but the basis for all this is that we like to be involved in the industry, support the industry, so we know in what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Excellent.
I didn't hear anybody snoring yet.
I think we're still awake. And Ashton.
That's a hard act to follow. So I'm also pretty boring. I work for local government for the city of Pittsburgh. We are the second largest municipality in the state behind Philadelphia. And we have 90 neighborhoods and 300 facilities. And initially, when I first joined the city, I joined in the mayor's office in 2011 as a sustainability coordinator. And it's a position that I've been in, and I've evolved the department and the division from an office within the mayor's office into a full-on division within the Department of City Planning. We started off in 2011 as the Office of Sustainability and Energy Efficiency, and my background is actually architecture. So it's kind of a weird segue as to how I got into waste. But I went to school for architecture, sustainable design, energy efficiency is really my thing. So, but then if you think about it and you think about efficiency, it's very much about like reducing waste. So it's energy waste, and then of course waste also plays a role in energy as well. So it actually is a pretty good place to have evolved into. The office transitioned in 2014 into innovation and performance with the birth of all of the smart city stuff that happened. So I kind of rode that wave into innovation and performance. And then when resilience and equity came into being like a thing as well, and at the SDGs, I rode that wave further on into the Department of City Planning, and I am the principal planner there. And I actually wear two hats as the principal planner and as the principal planner of special projects. So I get to do a lot of awesome and interesting things, but nobody in sustainability doesn't touch waste and recycling in some shape or form. Like, you just cannot be a sustainability manager or director in any organization and not touch waste and not touch recycling. And that's pretty much how I came into dealing with waste and recycling. And now we're starting to look into organics and offering composting as well, and how to create a strategic plan so that we can actually do it efficiently and effectively within hopefully the next 10 years. Our waste system is pretty shaky at best right now, so we don't really want to layer on a new thing of organics until we figure out some of the other stuff that we have to figure out first, so that the whole system doesn't hopefully collapse on itself. So one of the main things that I've always done, no matter the title change, I've always been trying to progress our climate action plan. And we also did a resilience plan as well, a resilience strategy as well. And these are all the different aspects of the climate action plan and the resilience strategy. And waste kind of falls honestly between both. I mean, waste is political. Waste is a very touchy subject, especially when it comes to communities and when it comes to litter. It's an indication of, how good the community is, whether it feels like they've been neglected. So it's just a really touchy subject. And we've done a number of things with that. And all the projects listed are the ones that I've worked on, mostly because nobody else wanted to do the waste chapter. So I got to do that. We can go to the next slide. So what we do, I always say we do a lot of everything and a lot of nothing. And I say we do a lot of everything because sustainability, resilience, and equity touches literally every department and every within the city of Pittsburgh. I mean, there's no department that doesn't have something that they need to work with our division on. We sort of work really as internal consultants for the city of Pittsburgh. So we do a lot of project spinoffs. We do a lot of the pre-work before we go into any big initiative, basically. We do a lot of the fundraising through our division. So we really touch all the different departments, and we really do a lot of everything in every single segment. However, we do nothing because we're not the one who are actually implementing the work at the end of the day. So we are really good at helping to raise funding, helping to do a lot of the early facilitations, getting the conversation started within the departments. I'm a trained facilitator as well, so I do a lot of the facilitation. We communicate, we do some stuff within the city, and we are sort of the intermediary between the city and the 90 neighborhoods and with some of the other local governments. So we do a lot of that. And then at the end of the day, we sort of hand off the project to whatever division as whose responsibility it really is. So at the end of the day, I'm not the one picking up the trash, but I am the one who's starting the composting program. And that's pretty much what we do. So what our division for sustainability and resilience always want to do is to help to develop a Pittsburgh for all with thriving sustainable neighborhoods. So hopefully we'll continue to do that into the future.
Cool. Well said. Everybody, these are your rising leaders for 2024. They're all 40 under 40 award winners as well, so congratulations to the panel here. Now I'm going to open up to questions to them. So they've sent me some questions, and I'm going to throw them some curveballs they don't know about.
No.
But first, I'm going to start with Rebecca. Rebecca, coming from management, consulting, and tech, what inspired you to get into waste and recycling?
Yeah, it's a bit of a non-traditional career path, I would say. But to be honest, I think it's a decision that I'm grateful for every single day. When we go back to the year 2019, when I decided to start Glacier, I had alluded to this earlier. There were a lot of really big macro trends that indicated that recycling was about to go through a tidal wave of change. EPR legislation, national sword getting passed. Many other things we could point to. And on top of that, I think I was, deeply embedded in Silicon Valley at the time, and I was just seeing all this really, really amazing innovation coming out in robotics, in artificial intelligence, all of these new technologies. And to be honest, I just saw it getting applied to some of the stupidest stuff. Like, not to pick on anyone, I guess I'm about to, but, for example, I remember seeing a headline about this company that had just raised millions of dollars to build AI that could train your dog a little bit faster, right? And I know that dog training is important, and those of us who love our canine friends can agree with that, but it just felt like there was so much more you could do with this type of technology than just, teach your dog how to sit or roll over a little bit faster. So my co-founder and I really wanted to find a way to take all of this innovation that we were seeing out in Silicon Valley and really apply it to a big picture problem, one that impacts literally everyone on the planet. And I think that, there are very few things that people have to think about, every single human on this planet, like producing waste and disposing of it responsibly. And so that was a really big driving factor. I would say the other thing is I call myself an optimistic capitalist, maybe from my consulting days, but what I really liked about solving problems in recycling and waste are, I come to it more from a sustainability angle. Like, I really want us to learn how to be good stewards of our planet's natural resources. And yet at the same time, I really believe that if you really want to create enduring and wide sweeping change, you have to align it with economic incentives too, as well, right? And so when thinking about applying this technology, it really seemed like if you can find a way to make the cost of processing recycling way, way cheaper and the value of the goods that you're producing way higher, then you fundamentally change the profitability structure of recycling. And then whether you're coming to it because of sustainability reasons or financial reasons, suddenly everyone is marching in the same direction on wanting to get our recycling systems to work. So that's really the driving force behind what we're trying to do at Glacier.
Cool. Megan, what are some of the challenges you've had to overcome as an EHS professional in the solid waste industry?
So one challenge I've had to overcome is, sorry. So one challenge that I've had to overcome is working for a publicly traded company and going to an owner-operated, family-owned business with a robust strategic growth plan. Whenever I got to the company, I had to learn that what I had applied at the publicly traded company wasn't necessarily going to work for them. One, it was a different industry, but also I needed to tailor make a program to fit their needs, their challenges, and their industry. And as the company doubled in size, I realized I couldn't efficiently track all the data that I was, taking in. So I partnered with a company to customize an environmental health and safety information management system so that I could get some informed data-driven decisions in real time, right? So I could make those decisions with the data that came out of that system.
Excellent. Now, Ian, where do you see the future of the industry, and how are you able to help within this industry?
Well, I see the future sort of in two buckets, and they sort of overlap each other a little bit. I think there's a lot of, your company, for example, there's a lot of investment and capital going into improving collection processes, recycling, treatment of materials, where there's just gonna be plenty of money being sort of spent on that. And having sort of a banker that understands that and realizes that is a benefit to business owners, right? Because there's opportunity for them to, one, clean up the environment, but two, also, they're in it for some profit too. Let's be honest. So from my standpoint, we stand ready to sort of help and develop those things. The second bucket, I think, is really the next generation of owners, right? The industry has, for lack of a better term, some gray-haired people that are sort of aging out. And I think it's creating an area where younger people that have the guts, that can work hard to step up and really make something meaningful. And like I said, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, didn't have the guts to do that, but helping people sort of grow that, being an advisor for them, helping them provide for their families, their employees. Those two buckets are where I think the future sort of lies, is the next generation, and then all the technology and capital that's going to be spent moving this industry more towards sustainability.
And Afton, what are some of the biggest challenges with regard to waste management at your organization, and how do you work to overcome those?
So I will say that, everybody wants the city to be a Mustang. They want it to be efficient. They want it to be sleek. They want it to be fast. But cities are not like that. We're more like the buses that you see that have everybody packed in and everybody hanging off the sides. And on top of that, every 4 years, you have the chance of running into having a complete mission change when you have like a new elected person. So you're on your way to your destination, you're halfway there, you're really making progress, then all of a sudden you get a new bus driver and you have to turn around and go a different direction. So I'd say that one of the hardest things is working with the city itself, and not because the people don't want to do it, not because, the will is not there, but it's because of all the loaded on things you have to deal with working with all your communities and all your neighbors, and then all the training, and then all the politics labeled and loaded on top of all of that. So that's probably the hardest thing that I've had a hard time working through. I've had the pleasure of working through 3 administrations since I've been there for 13 years, and all of them have been really supportive of sustainability in general. All of them have been supportive of waste, but none of them, I don't think, really understands how intricate and how important waste really is. And a lot of our ratepayers don't even understand how intricate and how expensive and how time-consuming and how environmentally intensive waste is as well. So, they see their trash, they pay their taxes, and they think it should just go away. And, and anytime you have to say, well, we need to increase rates and stuff, they just don't understand why. And in Pittsburgh, we have a really bad relationship with waste because we're sort of spoiled. You can take a whole sectional couch and put it on your curb on, your trash day, and somebody will come and make it go away. And it just doesn't happen like that. And even some of our neighboring municipalities. But when it comes to having to talk about changing the system to a pay-as-you-throw or something like that, they're up in arms about I don't understand. We're paying all this money. And it's just kind of well, I don't think there's anywhere else you can go where you can take out a refrigerator and somebody will pick it up, a 3-piece sectional and somebody will pick it up, or just, 2 or 3 households or parties worth of trash on curbside, day, and then they'll come pick it up. So it's just working through all the different mentalities and all the different levels of governance that makes it really challenging to push the waste initiative forward.
Very well said. Now, you're each dubbed as rising leaders in our industry, and there may be other people who want to be in your shoes someday, or even leaders with us today. I would like to know, just for the table, and any of you can answer it as how you see fit, what makes a successful leader? How do you get to be a successful leader for someone who you're under or is you're managing?
Okay. So I feel a successful leader is willing to adapt as the business grows and the industry changes, right? With regulations, with COVID, the more you're willing to adapt and be willing to explore other opportunities or other ways and collaborate with people, that is going to make you a successful leader.
I'd say that it's probably just being willing to fail, A lot of the stuff that comes with being a leader means that you're doing something that nobody else has done before. And if you're afraid of failure, then, or afraid of at least taking a little bit of heat or a little bit of opposition, then you're going to have a really hard time in any type of leadership position. So you just have to be afraid to try something and be able to say, okay, that didn't work. Take whatever you learned from that and move on to the next experience.
And from my perspective, I think it's really sort of using the word lead in my definition here, but leading by example, right? Not asking somebody to do something you wouldn't do yourself, whether that's relaying a message, whether that's picking up the phone, talking to somebody, sending anything that you wouldn't do yourself. You got to put yourself in their shoes. And so if I'm asking somebody to do something, I'm advising a client on something, it's well, I got to think through my mind, is this actually the right thing, or is this more of a benefit for myself? Is it a benefit for them? Where does it sort of lie? And really just putting yourself out there to say, all right, this makes sense. I'm leading with a good spirit here. I'm leading with a good mind, and everybody's sense is generally well here.
Yeah, and I guess since we're going down the line, my advice is probably there's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot in tech that I like that's called strong opinions weakly held. And the idea here is, it's always helpful to be refining what your perspective is on a topic or your opinion. But I always try and ask myself, no matter how much I believe in something, what would it take to change my mind? Right. And I think that, I guess to this point around adaptability or around being willing to fail, always examining whatever belief system you have going on is what really allows you to evolve with whatever situation you're in. Everyone's heard about my background at this point, but, prior to starting Glacier, I'd actually never set foot in a MRF before, right? I was kind of learning from scratch what are the pain points that operators are facing and what are the problems we could be solving with this type of technology. And I probably went through thousands or tens of thousands of iterations on what I thought would be our path forward as a company, because with every new conversation I had, whether it was with a maintenance supervisor or the MRF manager or the CEO or a sorter on the line, I was constantly refining my theories on what it would take to get our recycling systems to truly be as efficient as possible.
Cool. And to speak to that, we all start somewhere. So for the table again, what advice could you offer to someone who's trying to climb the ranks within their own company?
I think it's finding sort of a specialty or something that you're really good at and grasping on that and continue to be sort of an expert on that. Not trying to be a jack of all trades, all right? You do something very well, continue to capitalize on that and continue to work on developing that, and it'll shine through.
We do a lot of fundraising in my division. I'd say that one of the important things for us with regards to grants is to make sure that you're talking to all the right people before you apply for them. So you want to make sure that, everybody's on board with whatever it is that you're going to bring in funding for, so that once you have the funding, there's a clear vision as to how it's going to be executed and how it's going to be spent, instead of, going in with maybe some light ideas and then it being pulled apart, basically. I'd also say, making sure that you have a clear vision as to what it is you're applying for, and making sure that you have people on your side that are also looking for funding. Every grant proposal is not going to be the perfect grant proposal, so you're not going to win them all. But all you need is to win one, really, to get going with the funding that you need in order to start moving forward. So.
A little tidbit from my consulting days. I remember being fresh out of school and being given the advice that you should always be trying to do your boss's job for them. And at the time, I was like, that is so presumptuous. I have no idea what my boss wants me to do. How dare I do their job or make their decisions for them? And now, kind of sitting on the other side of the table, I'm like, please, I would love to have less work to do. And so, if you're a rising leader, I would say you're definitely not always going to get it right. You're not a mind reader. And part of that is two-way communication with the others on your team to see what work needs to get done. But I think the times when I grew the most and progressed the most were oftentimes when I tried to put myself in the shoes of other people on my team, understand what constraints they were working with, what they were optimizing for, and just trying to do a little bit more of that work on their behalf. Again, you may get it wrong and they may say, actually, this thing you spent a day working on is in the wrong direction and it needs to be scrapped. But you'll find that over time, more often than not, you're actually making strides in a pretty meaningful direction, and it gives you an incredible amount of perspective.
So I think that relationships is one of the most important proponents to moving forward in your career. It's important that you go out and listen to the people on the front lines and you understand the challenges that they have to face, because the policies and the procedures that you're going to be putting into place are going to affect them. And if you don't understand their challenges, then you can't implement them, right? They're not going to want to implement them. They're not going to want to do what you need them to do, and you aren't going to meet the rubber where it meets the road, right?
Cool. Now, some one-on-one questions again. We'll go back to Rebecca. How can the folks in this room be helpful to you in Glacier today?
Yeah, in many ways, in fact. So I would say, we're currently at the stage with Glacier where we're scaling up very quickly, but we're still looking always to surround ourselves with folks in the recycling industry who are very forward-thinking, embracing of innovation, willing to be a little bit more experimental with the technologies that they're trying out. And so, whether you're a MRF operator that's interested in seeing like what the ROI or the payback might be on automation in your facility, or using some of this AI data to understand, in real time what you're losing on your residue line so you can continue to optimize your plant, or whether you're interested in working with, some of these really big brands and other organizations that are finally coming to the table and wanting to understand, how they can design packaging better so that it makes MRFs' lives easier when it shows up in their facilities. We have all of those opportunities in front of us as a team, and we're really, really excited to sort of share some of that wealth. So please, come find me or message me afterwards if you just want to have a chat about it.
And for Megan, what are some of the top safety initiatives that you are currently working to implement and grow at Mid-Valley Disposal?
Yeah, so currently I am working, what I'm working on ties in with one of our HR initiatives to reduce turnover. And what we're doing is focusing on our driver training program to make it a comprehensive training program to include a classroom portion as well as a practical portion, and then make sure that those drivers are confident and knowledgeable of our equipment before they begin their route training. So that's one of the biggest things I'm working on right now.
Ian, what has been one of the most rewarding aspects of your position?
I guess from a standpoint of internally through like the organization is mentoring and having people sort of grow that not only worked underneath me, but also worked in a sort of vertical at the bank. That's been rewarding. More rewarding externally is, I've talked about this twice already, but it's having business owners grow their business, continue to generate wealth for themselves, and eventually pass that on to the next generation of their family, or they end up sort of monetizing the whole thing and then moving on to, sunny field somewhere else and doing something else that they enjoy and love. So that's really been sort of my passion.
And for Apton, what are some of the more interesting lessons learned from working with waste?
Geez, I think the most interesting lesson is how personal waste is. Everybody wants it to get rid of it. They want it to go away, but they don't want you to look at it and see what it is that they're throwing away sometimes. And it's just a really personal issue. I remember one of the first things that I was working on was trying to get all of our waste and our recycling into source sorting waste stations, when everybody was used to having like their personal like desk trash bins basically. And I would take away the trash bins, to make sure that everybody was going to the waste, to start sorting their stuff. And then all of a sudden these waste bins were always like find their way back, basically. And I didn't know where they were popping in from, like were people buying them, like bringing them in from home. So for weeks, it took probably at least 2 months of me stealing people's personal desk side bins. And we did make the, we made the caveat that if you had like, an issue, and I didn't ask like any personal information. If you said that you for whatever reason couldn't get up to make it to the bin to throw your stuff away, I let you have it. But that was one of the hardest things. And then people just, I don't know, it's just such a personal thing. Apparently, nobody wants you to know what it is that they're throwing away, but they just want it to disappear. So
Cool.
I don't know.
Well, I will quickly check in with the audience in case anyone has any questions before we move on to the actual Q&A, just to see if we have too many. I think, Steph, we have one right here.
This question's for Megan. How has, it's 5 years since COVID. How have, you're working in safety and sustainability, and those things, are completely separate, but also this, there's a lot of, crossover at the same time. They work hand in hand. And people, before COVID had different perceptions of safety and sustainability. How have you seen that change in the past 5 years with compliance with OSHA and also with sustainability efforts?
So I don't necessarily work in sustainability. I'm more in the safety world. And I think that since COVID, things have I've been a little bit more hands off, definitely, right? Where we've had to have some virtual messaging and keep up that messaging throughout that time. Now that COVID's kind of, weaning out, I'm seeing a huge transition back to the in-person trainings, back to people collaborating again, which is refreshing for us and for our teams. But during COVID, for sure, there was a huge, nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew how to communicate and what the right way was. And so that was the approach that we took.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we have one right back here.
My question's also for Megan. Is this on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. You were talking about trying to work with the HR to do job enhancement for the employees for improving retention. And my question is, have you implemented in your programs the information about the products that your drivers are transporting? In other words, what is the content? What are the hazards of them? What do they do in an emergency? In the next 3 o'clock session across the hall, we're going to be talking about that. And at least as I've talked to some of the industry, those are not topics that they often encompass, because in recycling and waste treatment, they're looking at the finished product to get rid of and not thinking about what are the chemicals involved in that and what are the hazards to me or the community or the facility. And so could that be a program that would enhance your employees' feeling of contributing to the whole?
Yeah, so within the classroom portion, we have a 1 hour time frame where we actually bring in the recycling managers from each of the divisions to talk about the contamination that each of these drivers could face. So anywhere from lithium batteries, right, to the different types of pool chemicals and what to do and what to look out for and how to tag a can whenever they do see them so that they can do the right thing to not pick up that material, have the customer handle it appropriately before they actually dump any of the waste. And then in addition to that, we have a robust GHS program. So everybody is taught how to identify those chemicals and what to do and not to do. And if there is a fire or something that is created because of the contaminants that go into the trucks, everyone is trained on their hot load procedures. So they'll be trained on whether or not they have a diesel truck or they have a CNG truck, because the procedures will vary based on the different types of fueling. So I believe we have a pretty robust section within our training program that we're creating right now.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions at the moment? We got Ryder.
My question is also for Megan.
So popular.
Megan, could you provide maybe 3 top strategies to assist with reducing accidents and incidents in the collection of waste?
So I just want to be clear. So your question is 3 ways to prevent incidents. We utilize the Smith system, right? So we have the 5 keys. So a big part of our training program is teaching our drivers how to have defensive driving, right? So utilizing those different types of, training methods is one way to help reduce those property damages and over-the-road incidents, right? So that would probably be one of the bigger ways. And then reducing complacency, right? Explaining to the drivers, especially if they're a side loader driver, if you're going to break routine, right? So if you're going to maybe, eat a chocolate bar or, answer a text in between a pickup, right? You need to do a 360, circle of 360. Make sure that your arm is in and that it's not out, so that you don't hit the parked vehicle probably 5 feet in front of you, right? And a third one would be just communication, right? I think that communication is so important in so many different levels. The route supervisors being proactive and going out and doing route observations. And we've seen actually seen a trend in our data that shows that the more route supervisor observations that they have, the less incidents occur in that month. So just having that one-on-one time with those with those drivers in cab, and taking the time to get to know them. One of our route supervisors takes a selfie with each of the drivers whenever they do that route observations. It's increasing engagement, and it's increasing those relationships I was talking about, to really be able to make a difference and encourage them to drive safer, right? We don't train them to drive better necessarily. We're trying to train them to drive safer.
Well said. I think, in the back.
Yeah, my question is for Rebecca. So coming from the technology industry, did you see a difference, like when you started up, a difference in digital adoption? And again, for AI, you need a lot of data, and there has to be a lot of change management to be tackled. What were the challenges that you faced? How did you overcome them?
Short answer is yes. And I think even in the 5 years that we've been building Glacier, we've definitely seen an evolution in the way that folks in the industry are thinking about using this type of data. So, when we first started Glacier, my co-founder and I had a conversation where we said, building a robot is a lot of work. Like, is there a world where we just go after the AI vision system, right? And we just return insights to facilities or recyclers about how things are going in their plant? And I think the reason we decided to go down that long, hard path of also building out the robot was kind of twofold. One was just that for a lot of folks that we work with still, there's this feeling of, data is only as good as the decisions you make with it. And I've had facility operators tell me straight up, like, it doesn't really matter if you tell me that my plant's behaving a certain way, like, what am I gonna do about it? And so I think for people with that mentality, it's actually really nice to be able to have the tool like a robot to say, actually, not only can we tell you how much you're leaking on your landfill line, we can actually put a robot behind it to help you capture some of that material immediately and tell you how much material it actually recovered, right? So there's that mentality to it too. And I think the second thing around there is that in some ways, the ROI justification for the robot is a little bit more direct, right? You're thinking about the equivalent cost of sorting out that material, or the cost or the incremental revenue from being able to sell that additional commodity. What's been interesting about data is that I think as the industry has gotten more exposure to that information, like literally as we've gotten data dashboards into the hands of MRF operators who can now click around and see that they can not only quantify the value of material they've lost over the past year, further segmented by PET, HDPE, aluminum cans, but they can actually zoom into the past 5 minutes in their plant to know exactly, where the spikes in material were and go track down and triage their operation. We're seeing worlds open for our customers, and they actually become some of our brainstorm partners on our roadmap, because we'll have our customers emailing me at all hours of the day and night saying, hey, I actually used your data for this new use case. Can you build me a button or a feature that allows me to do this more easily, right? So it's really, really exciting, because I think coming from Silicon Valley, you often erroneously have this feeling that there are, metrics and sensors and monitors for literally everything you could possibly hope to measure. But the fact of the matter is, even when we're working with a behemoth like Amazon, it's mind-boggling to me that Amazon has figured out how to get so much information on literally every single item that they are selling and shipping out to everyone across the entire planet. And yet, once that package arrives on the doorstep, they have no clue what happened to it afterwards, right? So, just it's mind-boggling. And so it's really about bringing that same level of visibility to the back half of the circular economy. And I think it'll fuel a lot of efficiency improvements as a result in the coming years.
Thank you.
To switch a little bit, this question is for Afton. Pittsburgh happens to be downwind from East Palestine, Ohio, where a train wreck derailment a year ago put 8.5 million pounds of highly hazardous chemicals into the air that blew over Pittsburgh. So my question is your Department of Sustainability, have they evaluated the risks, the hazards, and been involved in communications to the public from that incident that's remote from you?
No, we haven't. That would be a different division. So we do have like an emergency management team, and I do remember that incident, and I do know that they more or less dealt with sort of like the public advisory, not only with that, but also with some of the air quality things that were coming out of when we had like the air quality issues that were coming from some of the fires and things that were happening up in Canada and in California that were sweeping through. So that actually wasn't my division. But yes, I mean, on occasion we do work with them in terms of resilience in a broad sense of like, you know, trying to figure out some different ways to combat like air quality and things like that. But it's not something that I specifically do now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, and right here.
Hello, it's for Megan. In reference to the driver policy, what are some of the procedures your company uses to discipline employees that fail to meet safety protocol? And also, what are some of the incentives you use to retain or gain drivers with the already truth of shortness of staff?
So in regards to the disciplinary actions, we do have a progressive disciplinary plan that we follow. Our human resources team will help our supervisors implement that. So first offense, verbal, then warning, suspension, and therefore depending on the severity of the incident. So that would be the disciplinary action side of the question. And then incentives, we love to barbecue for our teams, right? I think we love being able to reward all of our employees consistently throughout the year, just telling them thank you for, being great, drivers and for, being family, right? Being family owned, that's important to us, that we're cooking for them and that they understand that we care about them. Specifically for personalized incentives, we have Employee of the Month. We also have a Rookie of the Year and a Driver of the Year. And then I also have a team. I have a team of 3 who I give gift cards to. So as we see safe behaviors, we will pass out those gift cards. And then lastly, we have a third eye in our vehicles. So we have a behavior report that we run on a quarterly basis. So the safest drivers will be given a gift card, possibly a plaque, depends on what the district managers want to do based on the number of people who have achieved that award.
Thank you. All right, well, I'll shift gears. I don't see any hands going up, so I'll just come back to the table. I'll come back to you guys in a second, but I want to get back to them. I have a question just for the table. Even we haven't heard from you in a little bit, but this is for everybody. We'll start with
That's
Ian.
okay.
What is something you're proud of throughout your career?
Well, I haven't been fired yet, so I'm pretty proud of that. There's been some close calls. No, I think the thing that I'm most proud of is just I guess, especially in this industry, running in the circles that I run in is becoming like now a pickup or a go-to call for like advisory. And what I mean by that is, so we've got 150 clients across the United States. So we can look at, what company XYZ is doing in California and then apply maybe to somebody that's working in Utah. And sometimes we provide that feedback and they're like, I know how to run my business. But ultimately, what they say is, you know what, maybe that is the right way. We'll talk. There is a better way to do that. And from doing this for over 10 years and being in banking for almost 20 years, I'm proud of the fact that people will call me and ask for advice. Ask, hey, how do I do this better? What should we be thinking about differently? How is somebody else doing that? So that's what I'm proud
of. This award.
Okay, congratulations.
Yes, thank you. But also my EHS information system. So I partnered with a company called Intellex, where I customized from the ground up all of our EHS platforms, right from incident reporting to route observation reporting, hazard identifications, permitting, and that type of thing. And it works, and the people want to use it, which is great. So I would say that's one of the proudest things I've done so far.
I think I'm really proud of the people that I work with. They indulge me, and we are, always in their business, basically. And even though they're pretty supportive still, even though we're poking around and something, like I said, we do everything and nothing. So, they're the ones who are responsible for executing all these brilliant and wonderful plans that we come up with in the sustainability division. But they're incredibly supportive and ridiculously helpful. And a lot of the times it ends up being stuff that they really want to do, they just don't have time to think about, or they don't have the time to focus on. So they're really happy that we were able to come to them with like a program idea or a strategy and ask them for advice on how to make this work, because it's just something that they've just been meaning to get around to, but just haven't had the chance to do. So I'm super proud of the support that we get from our internal divisions and departments and the work that they're able to get accomplished.
I think for me, it's probably the quality of the customer relationships that we built at Glacier. Now, if you rewind 5 years ago, I mentioned already, like, that was the first time I ever set foot inside a MRF. I think all of us in the room know how much of a relationships industry this is. And so coming and, cold calling MRFs and being like, hey, we're like two dweebs from Silicon Valley, and can we ask you a bunch of questions about what it is to run a recycling plant? That takes a little bit of warming up to, understandably. But I think, if you look at the example of the first pilot customer we ever worked with out in California, we actually started that pilot because the VP in charge of the plant was kind enough to respond to a bunch of very weirdly detailed questions I had about his methodology for waste audits. And he was like, why do you care? He thought I was just a concerned citizen. And I was like, oh, we're building this technology. He was like, okay, let's talk. So they ordered one just to start, and then they expanded to 3. And then most recently they put in an order for another 6. So we're up to 9 robots with them. And so I consider that a testament to, not only the quality of our product, sure, but the fact that customers who have been in the industry for a really long time and frankly probably have some scar tissue around innovation and trying things that then fall flat on their face are still willing to take that bet with us. So it's something I'm very proud of, and we don't take that lightly.
Cool. And Megan brought up the 40 under 40 award, which you've all won. Again, congratulations. For the table, did you guys think that you would ever win this award or win an award for the work that you're doing?
Nope.
No, not at all. Like it's the section that nobody wanted to touch.
Yeah, I guess to represent a no for everybody then.
Yeah. I had to pull around, like, who nominated me for that?
Yeah, I still don't know.
Who did it?
Yeah.
Well, maybe better kept secret. I don't know. But, I guess that's good. Usually, I'm waiting for one person to be like, yeah, of course, I'm doing great. I should win an award. But that's to say that everybody in this room, before you know it, you could be nominated for something just as prestigious. The work we're doing out there is great. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing. We're winding down here. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank the rising leaders again here, Megan, Rebecca, Ian, Acton. Thank you so much for your advice, your stories, and the work that you're doing. I'm sure you'll see them around if you have any questions for them. Waste Expo is a great way to network and connect. So get out there and make those connections. But everybody, enjoy Waste Expo. Thank you for being here. Have a great day.